If Lucy can have a candle on for the majority of the session, that would be celebrate the 50. And thanks for joining every week for the last 50 weeks, which is almost a year by my reckoning. We have run a session which has ebbed and flowed through the year around engagement, and it's evolved and grown as things do. And it's great to build a little community around it. And what I find, it's around like-mindedness and the need to kind of connect, particularly now, to engage, to collaborate, and to develop outcomes as well around our 6 core offers, which today we're focusing on learning, action for learning outcomes. And a few weeks ago, we ran a webinar, Bev Holden ran it, around the learning experience. And if you were attending that, I know some of you were on that, we actually ran through landing well, so switching on the training room. We came through the equality and the learning experience, what it means to open up the conversation at the center of that learning experience. And that really captures big picture values. You're all at different levels of understanding. All you need to know for this session is we'll refer to some fairly straightforward and easily understood symbols that mean something, and they're written on your resources. So whether you've got the paper prop or you've got the digital kit, you can see that we have different symbols. So today we're going to focus on, if you can see me on screen, we're going to focus on the team symbol. Here we're going to focus on the measure symbol and the opportunity symbol. Create these outcomes for learning. We're going to focus on measure, team, and opportunity. Big picture encourages action following a learning event. So the situation we're going to get into is the end of that learning and training session. And we're going to look at this right-hand end that I showed you on Bev's. We didn't actually have time in that initial session. We didn't get on to the good ending. We use, and what she suggests doing is using big picture to engage people, to open up the learning journey itself. But what we do when we get to the ending part is we actually flip it so that we put and place the learner within the big picture of their role within the organization. So there's very much, and it can be quite a theatrical point in time where you go from talking about the learning journey and you actually talk about what are you now going to do in respect of taking this learning back into your role. And this is about where the action and the outcome comes into play. Maximizing engagement in all different forms, active participation, which you've probably sensed so far. There is not a command and control feel to this. There is not a top down. We give each other prompts and space, and we don't mind waiting for everybody's level of knowledge to come up. So there may be some awkward times where we're helping someone out and we're all hanging around a bit, but that's fine. We can all multitask, and that's very much a big picture facilitation piece. It's also about independent thinking. So we're all able to make connections in different ways, and we'll just see people move their pieces around, and a little bit of orientation for you. You can see on that right hand side who's moving and who's doing what. So that's really useful. Jonathan, I didn't create a symbol for you. How are you feeling about it? If you're in there, do you want me to?
It's all right. I created one. Can you see me moving?
Oh, brilliant. Where did you go?
I went in operations.
Oh, of course you did. Blimey, you're ahead of me. I'm going looking for you on the left. And
I found you.
You've zoomed off. No, that's brilliant. What you now bring on to the board, remembering that this is the end of a training or a learning kind of activity, and the training that you've had is around compliance. And what I'd like you to do on your board is I'd like you to use 2 measures, and I'd like you to use an opportunity. And I'm going to give you an example of how I would run a discussion or conversation at the end of this training. It goes along these kind of lines. For me and us working in an area of the business, our new learning is going to help us improve our something, that means that the organization will improve their something, and those two somethings are measures, and we see the opportunity as X or Y. This compliance training for me in administration is going to help me to be able to find things quicker. So it could be any form of compliance that you can imagine. It could be the kind of pandemic compliance, or it could be compliance in a different kind of style. That allows me, the organization, to pay suppliers quicker. And the opportunity is maybe to get the tech to support us working better.
For me, working in management, admin, our new learning in compliance is going to improve our wastage. That means that the organisation will improve their financial waste. Mm-hmm. We see the opportunity as passing those savings on to the customer.
Now, if we're a transport and logistics business, you can have a really good conversation about how someone in management has now, like yourself, you've come on this course, you've had the compliance training, you've made sense of it. And what I was going to mention is, because you've had those thoughts, it's a bit like a holiday snap in that you remember being part of that conversation. And actually, because of that, you're more accountable to ensure that you see through on those actions and those outcomes.
Would you also say we can actually do some more training then around some effectiveness and efficiency drives as another opportunity?
Improve the learning or change the learning by having a brand new IT system installed. Measurement would be the timing. The measurement would be the timing, so the response time for the customer complaint to be reported and actioned on.
Yeah. And what would that mean for the organization?
Well, for the organization, it adds kudos and reputation, but also it would be saving on time, because the amount of time that the person would be taking to deal with a problem means that they can deal with more problems, which is more cost effective.
So I'd like to add as well, and I think the training would definitely help reduce errors. So if customer care has less errors, then obviously customer satisfaction will increase. So yeah, that's an opportunity as well.
Well, it can pass back to marketing, can't it? Because the better your reputation becomes, the more marketing can target the right people with the new way that you're dealing with business.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Lovely. So actually that one links across to there. Hopefully you've seen the values that Big Picture brings, which is an open conversation about prompting participants to make connections across the whole organization. Employees and colleagues do not just sit in one part of the organization with a certain role title and have limited value to add. My belief is they have lots of ideas, and if you're going to invest in compliance training or indeed any learning or training activity, then there are other opportunities that are being uncovered in that time. I just don't think they're sometimes harvested as well, and this is all about giving the learner a voice at the end of that training.
I was going to say, from my point of view, it's almost like who's kind of listening to my brain then, because I was saying that the increased knowledge of customer need, so from the customer services understanding the customer needs better, for sort of funnels back into increased knowledge of customer need, which means we can improve our targeting, which means we've got less money spent on wasted marketing. We can actually target the markets more accurately, and we can get better customers on board who are more likely to be our ideal customer persona, so they stay with us longer.
Yeah, I just see that there's an opportunity in operations for conversations with the managers around raising accountability around the compliance, because there's been a lot of training around the compliance, but with so many trainings, the managers of the people who have been trained don't follow through to ensure that the training actually has impact.
Yeah.
There's a huge opportunity there to be able to make sure that all the managers are also held accountable for their people to implement the learning. Well, yeah, that managers are held, instead of the learners going away and saying, oh, I can't do this because, it's the managers who are held accountable and say, right, what are the obstacles to implementing this compliance stuff? What do we need to do at our level to facilitate you being able to do it so that customer care is taken, so marketing can get a better avatar? It's often managers are not held accountable for the learners. Absolutely.
And I think you would have potentially the ability to do that at the end. Every training or learning intervention is top and tailed with a conversation like that, i.e., when you land in the room, this is the training we're going to go through. We've paid money for this training. We've invested it. We're all here. Let's be present. Let's take that content on board. And at the end of it, let's put 20 minutes, half an hour into working out, how is this going to help me in my role? How is this learning going to help us improve our X? This means the organization will improve their Y. I'm just going to draw your attention, and anybody can do this if you're in the board yourself. And there's a massive time saving using Big Picture when it comes to this part of the conversation around. We've just generated lots of opportunities there. The list goes off the page, and I know it's just a simulation, but in the time we've generated on the board around 12 or 15 new opportunities. Decision making.
No, I just put better decision making at the top.
Why would you just a one line on why you think that should be at the top?
Well, because basically every organization depends on the decisions made by the software, the people and the executives. So the better the decision making, the more successful the business can be. Not necessarily will be, but
Brilliant.
Can be.
Love it. Chris Jones, what would you put at the top?
I'm going to put the new collaborative partnerships to the top.
Look at that.
I think in the current climate, as has been said, that we've got to stop fighting against each other and start and actually work together.
Okay, I'm going to go with better quality data, although there's a caveat to that, because it's not just it is data, but it's data in a broader sense. What we're doing now is transmitting data, we're sharing data, although the means is verbal. So
if you want to be disruptive and offer a challenge of you and bump one of the aforementioned off, that's brilliant. It leads to a debate.
Yeah, I agree with better quality data, I think should be on top, followed by better decision making, because if you have better quality data, you're more likely to make better decisions.
It's coming together. The group think is coming together. So if organizations say we can't afford to do this at the end of our training sessions because it takes too long, I think it could be done in short space of time. It's an open conversation. Everyone has a chance to contribute. By using a simple and straightforward framework, it's a leveler in terms of who can contribute. And in this context of learning and training, if we're going into rooms to learn new things, why wouldn't we want to set up our mind frame to actually get ourselves in mode to actually learn stuff which is going to help our own role, and then in a structured way towards the end of the session, actually draw that towards how it's going to help the organization. And that's what you'll find if you go onto yourbigpic.com/learning. You'll hear me explain how that can work. So I hope I've given you today a story or a seed of an idea, which if you're speaking to someone about training budgets, learning budgets, etc., how you can actually link your learning into action and outcomes